Hola clase. We're just looking into our class for this week, what we have due. So today is Thursday, and for one day you have to complete Exploraciones Gramaticales 4 and MindTap. And also you're taking a quiz on Tener and R. These are both in Blackboard. Usually your tests are and quizzes are in MindTap, so make sure that you know that they are both in Blackboard. They're both here for you to take. So you want to do those both by Monday by 11:59 p.m. You do have your test coming up on the 25th. It will be due. Just a reminder that that's coming up soon. But we still have review before that, and we'll have some class time for that too. But just some reminders. So what we want to do first is just review the forms of tener. So if you have your notebook, just pull that out so that we can just make sure that you know your conjugations before we do the practice. So as usual, we're going to draw our six pack. And we want to do tener. This is how we conjugate. And this is to have. Remember, you have your singular and your plural and your first, second, third. This is for any conjugation. We're going to do that. So to say I have, it would be tengo. You can say yo if you want, but you don't need to. You have, that would be tienes. He or she has. Usually we do put the pronoun here because we don't know if it's he or she or the husband or my father. So that would be tiene. Él tiene $20. Nosotros, we don't really need it because the ending tells us. So that's going to be tenemos. And this is a regular, so that's why we kind of have to just conjugate these and memorize the forms. Tenemos. It's an N. And then vosotros, we don't really need that, but we can put it in just in case, just to remind ourselves. And that's going to be tenéis. So you're really just taking off the ER, but you have to add your endings. And some of them are irregular, like tango. Tienes is irregular. There's an E to IE spelling change with this verb. So we can write that up here just so we know that's E to IE. But that does not happen for nosotros or vosotros. Sometimes we call these boot verbs because outside of the boot, they don't change. And then back in the boot, we have ellos or ellas or ustedes tienen. So that would be they have or y'all have. This is we have, nosotros. Just make sure you know those. So if we want to use some of the expressions that we have in Espanol to say tener, so tener by itself means to have, but we also have these different expressions like tener años. So if you said like tengo 20 años, right? Tengo, you're using the form of tener, tengo 20 años, or tú tienes 30 años. So that's used to talk about age. It's also used to talk about things that like different conditions, tener calor or mucho calor. To be hot. So you could say, oh, ella tiene mucho calor. Tener cuidado. Tengo cuidado or tengo cuidado en el invierno, in the winter. Tener éxito, to be successful. So you can say, mi papá tiene mucho éxito. So you're going to use one of the forms of tener plus the word éxito, for example. Mi papá tiene mucho éxito. Tener hambre, to be hungry. So you can say, tengo mucha hambre. And it's mucha because hambre is feminine. Tener ganas de, I skipped over that one. So plus infinitive. So for that one, it's a little trickier because you're not just saying tengo frío. You would say like tengo ganas de dormir. So de plus your infinitive. So now we're going to just use an infinitive. De jugar baseball. Or él tiene ganas de dormir, to sleep. It's one of our IR verbs. So you're going to use the infinitive after the de. That's what it means when it says infinitive. We have tener miedo. Tengo miedo de los monstruos, like monsters. Or ella tiene mucha prisa. She's in a hurry. Tener plus que plus infinitive is something you have to do. So, for example, I could say something like, mis padres, and we're going to use tienen because it's they. Tienen que trabajar. So we're going to use the infinitive after the que to say something you have to do. How would you say, I have to study? You would say, tengo que estudiar, because we need the infinitive after that. So it's tener conjugated plus que plus infinitive to say something that someone has to do in Spanish. And then we have tener razón, to be right, tengo razón, or no tengo razón, I'm not right. Tengo sed, tengo mucha sed, I'm very thirsty, or él tiene mucha sed, nosotros tenemos mucha sed. So we're just going to change the subject by changing the form of tener. Tener sueño, los estudiantes tienen sueño, they are tired. So it's like they have tiredness, but in Spanish we use these to say you have certain conditions. And then tener suerte, yo tengo mucho dinero, or yo gano la lotería, I win the lottery, tengo mucha suerte. So what you want to do is you want to look at these pictures and you want to decide what could we say for the different people. So let's see, we have, oops. All right, so we have this first picture with the cat. What would we say for the cat? Would we say tenemos hambre, tienen miedo, tengo 5 años, tiene sed, tiene sueño, or tiene prisa? For that one, we would say tiene sed because she is thirsty. For this next one, this picture B, they're watching, it looks like a scary movie. So what would we say for them? Would we say tenemos hambre, tienen miedo, tengo 5 años, tiene sueño, or tiene prisa? For that one, we would probably say tienen miedo. They are fearful. Tienen miedo. For this next one, the letter C, it looks like they're eating. So let's see what we could say for that. Could we say tenemos hambre, tengo 5 años, tiene sueño, or tiene prisa? For that one, I would say tenemos hambre. We are hungry because they're eating. Day here, the guy kind of passing out, sleeping. A lot of us feel like that at the end of the day. What could we say for him? Could we say, tengo 5 años, tiene sueño, or tiene prisa? We would probably say, tiene sueño. Are you tired for that one? Are you tired? This number A, it looks like a birthday party, a little girl. So would we say, tengo 5 años, or tiene prisa? Tengo 5 años, or tiene prisa? For that case, we would probably say, tiene 5 años. It's her birthday. So she is 5. She has 5 years, literally. And then here, the last one, there's only one left. To say she is in a hurry, we would say, tiene prisa. She is in a hurry. For this next activity, we want to decide if it's something we feel like doing by saying tiene ganas de estudiar. So tener plus ganas plus de plus estudiar, or infinitive, just means something that you feel like doing. Or remember, tener plus que plus infinitive is something you have to do. So we want to decide for each of the activities if it's something that Carla tiene ganas de hacer, that she feels like doing, or tiene que hacer, she has to do. So let's look at estudiar para el examen de español. So do you think we would say tiene ganas de estudiar or tiene que estudiar? Again, our sentence was estudiar para el examen de español. So do we think we're going to say tiene ganas de plus infinitive estudiar? Or would we say tiene que estudiar. So remember, tener ganas de plus infinitive means something you feel like doing versus tener ganas, tener que plus infinitive is something you have to do. So what you want to do is you want to write those notes down and then give me a sentence. So for that one. So for número uno, would we say tiene ganas de estudiar or tiene que estudiar? For that one, I would say tiene que estudiar because probably she doesn't feel like studying. All right, how about número dos? Would we say, and we'll go back to the notes that please have these down, tiene ganas de, and we're going to use the new infinitive, or tiene que. So the second one says, tiene ganas de hablar con unos amigos en el centro comercial? Or would we say, tiene que hablar con unos amigos en el centro comercial? So most likely it would be tiene ganas de hablar con unos amigos because probably it's something she feels like doing, something more fun than studying. And then tres, trabajar por 18 horas. So someone has to work for 18 hours. What would you say for that one? Would you say tiene ganas de trabajar 18 horas? Or do you think it would be more tiene que trabajar 18 horas? Most likely it's tiene que trabajar because tener ganas de trabajar is something you feel like doing. And I can't think of anyone I know, unless you really love your job or it's really fun. So 18 horas is like more than one. It's maybe 2 shifts together. So, and then let's just do one more. Let's do viajar a España. So to travel to Spain. So do you think we would say tiene ganas de viajar a España? So we're just changing it now from a different infinitive. Or would we say tiene que viajar a España? Which one do you think would be better? Probably tiene ganas de viajar a España. That's more fun to travel and go to Europe. So, but you could have said tiene que viajar a España if it's something you feel is more of an obligation, something you have to do. For this next activity, you will listen to a video, and if you would just write down any adjectives that you hear during the video. So for this next activity, I will play a video for you, and you want to just write down any adjectives that you hear. And remember, adjectives are words to describe. So for example, difíciles would be one. So you just want to listen and write down adjectives that you hear during the video.
Regular. Tengo 2 clases de psicología este semestre y son muy difíciles. Tengo 2 clases de psicología este semestre y son muy difíciles. Tengo que estudiar mucho. Nosotros tenemos mucha tarea y hay varios estudiantes que tienen miedo de recibir una mala nota. ¿Tienes tú una clase difícil este semestre?
Para mí, historia. Es una clase interesante, pero muy difícil. Tenemos exámenes muy largos. Afortunadamente tengo un buen profesor con mucha experiencia. Además, es un hombre simpático e inteligente.
All right, so I'm going to play it one more time with the subtitles this time. So please just write down any adjectives that you hear.
Regular. Tengo 2 clases de psicología este semestre y son muy difíciles. Tengo que estudiar mucho. Nosotros tenemos mucha tarea y hay varios estudiantes que tienen miedo de recibir una mala nota. ¿Tienes tú una clase difícil este semestre?
Para mí, historia. Es una clase interesante, pero muy difícil. Tenemos exámenes muy largos. Afortunadamente tengo un buen profesor con mucha experiencia. Además, es un hombre simpático e inteligente.
Okay, so if we look down here, we have our adjectives. We should have seen words like difíciles, mucho is another one, mucha tarea, varios is another one, Mala for nota. Difícil is another one. Interesante, difícil. Largos is another one. Exámenes muy largos. So we notice we had to make sure that those adjectives agreed in number and gender. So like exámenes is a word that's masculine and plural. That's why it's largos. Afortunadamente tengo un muy buen profesor. So that word buen is going before the noun, which is not how we learned it so far. So we need to talk about that. Mucha experiencia. It's another one is going before the noun. So sometimes we can put our adjectives before our nouns depending on what type of adjective it is. And then we have es un hombre simpático e inteligente. Since hombre is masculine and singular, that's why we're going to say simpático. And the same thing with inteligente. So those are just some of our nouns that we have. So I am in right now in module 7 or week 7, and I'm just going to grab this note sheet. It says repaso on adjective and noun agreement in Spanish and some exceptions. It says we already saw these notes, but I'm actually pulling them up now for you. So we want to just look at some examples here. And if you want to read with me, that would be beneficial. So we have in Spanish, adjectives are generally placed after the nouns they describe. So let's just say a couple sentences together. We have el cálculo es una clase difícil. La señora Muñoz es una profesora interesante. So now we're just going to look at some examples of when the adjectives come before. When we have quantity, for example, like muchos or varios or pocos, those can go before our nouns that they modify. But we still want to make sure they agree in number and gender. So we have muchos estudiantes estudian francés. Tengo varios libros para esta clase. So the word varios is agreeing with libros. Since that's masculine and plural, we want to make sure that it's varios. Same with hay pocos estudiantes en clase hoy. So we're saying pocos. If we had profesoras there, that word would change to pocas profesoras. So we want to make sure still that the word agrees, but with that word of quantity, pocas or muchas, that can go before our noun. Note that the word muy is an adverb. It's not used with nouns. We never say muy muchacho. We have to say muchos muchachos. Or so for serio, though, like what we learned at the beginning, estoy muy bien, or él es muy serio, or soy muy cómico. The word muy goes with adjectives, where the word mucho or muchos go with our nouns. The word bueno and malo and grande they can be placed in front of the noun. But we actually drop the O when it's a masculine singular. So it's not going to be bueno muchacho or bueno estudiante. It's going to be buen estudiante. But you can still say él es un estudiante bueno. If you decide to put it after the noun, it's still bueno. It's just when it comes before that you shorten it to buen. The same thing with grande. Instead of grande ciudad, you just say gran ciudad. But you could say es una ciudad grande. If you wanted to put it after, it would still be grande. It's only when you put it before that it changes to gran. And there are some notes here for you. Son malas clases. Es una mala clase. So those stay the same. Because estudiantes is plural, it only changes to buen when it's one masculine. So just kind of have that in your notes that you know. And then the use of commas here, when we're using more than one adjective, you can use a comma. So you'd say like, tengo un cuaderno pequeño y rojo. Or el profesor es honesto, serio, e inteligente. Our ordinal numbers. So primero becomes primer. So just like bueno becomes buen when it comes before a masculine noun only. So it'd say, hoy es el primer día de clases, not primero día de clases. Mi primer amor fue Carlos. But all the rest of them stay the same. So you have mi segunda clase es inglés. Estoy en mi 10º año. So those are all used as adjectives to talk about first or third. Soy la tercera hija de mi mamá, the third. So you have segundo or segunda, tercero or tercera, cuarto, quinto, sexto, séptimo, octavo, noveno, décimo, undécimo, duodécimo. For this last activity, you just want to say cierto or falso, depending on if the statement is true or false. So you just want to listen to the audio and just say cierto or falso. You're going to write it in your activity.
Mi clase de español. 1. La clase de español tiene pocos estudiantes.
2. El salón de clases tiene una pizarra grande.
3. El salón de clases tiene muchas ventanas.
4. El profesor de español es un hombre alto.
Es un hombre alto.
5. Hay un estudiante pelirrojo en la clase.
Una estudiante pelirrojo en la clase. All right, eso es todo. Muchas gracias, estudiantes. Chao.